Hey there, everybody. It's Bob with Trade Genius. Got my good friend Phil here. Hope you had a great weekend. Bitcoin did not. Is it the end for Bitcoin? We'll fill you in.
Trade Genius.
Hey everybody, it's Bob with Trade Genius. Usually I do fun ads. I talk about our service, but I want to be serious with you for a second. We've been helping a lot of people trading for a long time. As you can see here, I want to let them do the talking for me for a change. But most importantly, we want to help you too. If you've not joined our service yet, come check us out, tradelikeagenius.com. Full service. We have chat room. We have the algorithms for you. We give trades out every day. We educate you. So go to tradelikeagenius.com. Check us out. What you get out of our service is much, much more than what you put into it. And we'd like to see you in the room. Thanks for listening. Okay, Phil, a lot of noise, a lot of FUD, a lot of hand wringing, big move down in Bitcoin today, news related, or is there something deeper here, or is it something we've already discussed in the past? I'm going to throw it to you.
Well, the things that are hitting the headlines are stuff like Mt. Gox, right? I think early or overnight, basically, it came out with a headline that they were finally going to distribute the coins, right? And that's always been like a big, boogeyman hanging over the market is, what's going to happen with all this billions of dollars of Bitcoin hitting the market. That probably is not going to be that big of a deal because one, those guys are probably going to hang on to BTC. I mean, if it's gone up to 60 something thousand, they're probably going to hold at this point, right? They have nothing to lose. That was already like written off. And now these guys are going to be like pretty wealthy right off the bat. So I don't think you're going to see these guys dump in mass. Will some? Sure. But if you look at statistical probabilities, I think they ran the numbers on it. So maybe you would see about 6,500 BTC hit the market for people that are just like over it and done. And, that's like one round of MicroStrategy's debt raise, in terms of buying supply. So I think the market's going to totally absorb it. I don't think that's totally what's attributing the drop that we're seeing. Things are really oversold here. We're getting readings on the 4-hour chart that we typically only see about 2 times a year. So this 60K level is pretty key, and I would not be surprised if we saw a bit of a mean reversion bounce on the daily timeframes that could, bounce us up toward 65 or something like that from these levels. Now, sure, they'll probably try to push it back down, but overall, the picture is that we're consolidating. So to jump to the charts, just to kind of show you guys what's been going on. Miner reserves. You'll see this is taking a nosedive down here. Why? Because miners have to sell more Bitcoin. They're not making as much. They're making half as what they used to make before April. So now that we're post halving, this is not abnormal. We see this around halvings where miners have to sell more to raise capital and continue their operation. So this is pretty normal stuff, but this is why, the price of Bitcoin has to go up for these guys relatively quickly now to sustain the models that they have. Otherwise, I got to unplug more machines, okay? And that will bring the network difficulty down. And that's what's reflected on this next chart, which is the hash ribbons. So if we look at this chart here, price of Bitcoin on top, and basically an envelope of the hash rate on the bottom as a histogram. So you'll notice there on the left toward the bottom, you got a red line. That's the last halving. What happened? We had minor capitulation, as you can see with the red histogram. Go over to the right side of the chart on the bottom. We just had a halving. What are we getting? Minor capitulation, red histograms. And you're going to see red histograms even in a bull market, because if you look at the previous halving in 2020, we had 2 areas where we had minor capitulation, right? And price did well after those basically gave us the blue dot, which means the minor capitulation is over. And those blue dots are typically really, really good buy signals. So that's what's coming. We'll get another blue dot. Price tends to lead that, where my belief is that hash follows price, right? If the price is higher, you can put more hash power to use and withstand higher difficulty rates on the network. So the difficulty rate is going to come down. Price will then bounce at some point, and then that's the combination of those things is going to green light more hash power going on the network. And then I think we're going to see, a finale to this run up. But we're, structurally on the chart there, that's a 3-day supply zone that we're in. We're chewing on that, consolidating in that. So I think that's good. If we start losing that on a weekly basis, where we start losing it after a couple of weeks and a clear break from that, then we got issues, right? Then we could be looking at a deeper pullback, or maybe even like, hey, maybe something's wrong up here. And is Bitcoin sniffing out a recession early, or stuff like that? I don't think that's the case just yet. Nothing's telling us that's the case. We're just dealing with consolidation and your typical post-halving malaise that you get into. But I think once we get out of this in the next couple of weeks, then we'll start to resume the run. if you want to look at things in perspective of the cycle, so I think that's majority why we were pushing down is minor sell pressure. This is the log growth rate, right? So logarithmic growth bands on the price of Bitcoin. You can see some, obvious peaks here. Typically, when you push up toward the middle of this band, as we have here, you're going to get some resistance. We've certainly been seeing that, Bob. But once we start to push up to the upper half of this growth curve, that implies we'll see about 170 to 175K. And as we've shown you guys before, that's kind of your 1.618 fib target from the measurement of this last bear market, right? When we went from almost 69K down to about 15,300 or 600, something like that on the most recent cyclical lows. So an extension of that 168 goes up and agrees with the top of this growth curve. So we have that to look forward to. And I, at this point, don't see why we wouldn't at least try to make it up there, or at least over, 100, 110,000. The other cool thing to look at, and I put it on this chart, is what happens in the election years, Bob. And so what these red lines represent is every election year at the close of the June candle. This is a monthly chart. And what it's showing you is that from the close of June to November 1, you get very healthy gains going into the election, anywhere from 30, 50, even 100+% gains. So I think we're going to have a similar run here, even though it feels like, so dire in the market. You go on Twitter and you think everyone's just gone bankrupt in crypto. And true, alts have been getting battered. Ethereum hasn't done its thing. It's got ETH approvals coming around the corner, and it looks like it doesn't want to have anything to do with that. But the point of the matter is, it always looks dumpiest before the pumpiest, especially in Bitcoin land. And I think that you just have to kind of zoom out here, know that this is really just more consolidation so far, but that the cyclical targets and what typically happens seasonally into an election means we should find a lower high here, or a higher low, here, and then we'll start to push up into that August, September timeframe, pull back, and then probably one final push up into November.
For those who trade oil and gold and silver and the miners, what's happening, Bitcoin should be no shock to you whatsoever. In fact, Phil and I talked about this a month ago, that the Bitcoin miners have no choice but to ramp up production. And if they can't ramp up production, they're going to sell off their reserves. And lo and behold, and what happens is selling begets selling in the futures market. So once these guys, they probably not only sold their reserves, Phil, but they probably sold out future production too, to get them through the next quarter here for earnings for all these publicly traded miners. So I'm looking at what I call a crazy Ivan move here. You talked about a reversion to the mean. Whenever you get a big V down move like this, you should see the V up coming as well. And we'll probably see that going into next week. Remember, they can't keep selling stuff they can't make. And so it's and it's different than gold and silver just because the settlements are different. And so it's going to be really interesting to see, I think, this move higher. And then one chart we didn't show you, I was telling Phil that there's a between 120, 150, 180 days after the halving, there's always a supply shock. And this ties in perfectly with the other charts that Phil said. So I'm looking for the supply shock. I'm looking for the move higher. And, if you guys are in agreement with us, this is beautiful dip buying time. And you should take advantage of it. So you don't often get these kind of opportunities. And the other thing, too, you guys got to remember, Bitcoin's absorbing a 350% move higher from low to high. And that's normal, too. So now it's painting out a handle. And when this thing goes back up and tests that 74K area, where you have that beautiful measured move. So we know on the low side, we're looking at 100K. And then Phil just expressed the high side. He could even be as crazy as 175K. So we don't think this move's done whatsoever. And I was reading articles today, too, Phil, that the Fed has no choice but to stay short duration on their bond purchases. Bond sales. So that's just going to provide even more liquidity into the markets, which usually flows into Bitcoin as well as some other risk assets. So I think our summer thesis is remaining the same. And there's a lot of really good reasons why this dip will be bought in Bitcoin. So we shall see. But that's our working assumption right now, and we think it's going to play out.
Yeah, totally agree. Let us know your thoughts below in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys. If you are interested in navigating these markets with Bob and I, head over to tradegenius.co. We'd love to see you guys in our Discord room. Check out the specials we have over there that enable you to do that. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Take care.
Trade Genius.